Adam Schiff just went scorched earth on Donald Trump, accusing him of acting like an autocrat, trying to steal votes, and warning that America's democracy itself is on the line. Schiff says Trump doesn't care about your health care, your rising costs, or your freedoms, only about enriching himself. And his message couldn't be clearer. You come for California's votes, we will fight you tooth and nail.
Folks, we are at a precarious moment in our nation's history. All of us in this room who have lived in the generation post-World War II, we're used to growing up in a world of ever-increasing freedoms. We saw new democracies being born. We saw walls coming down. We saw our freedoms expand, the freedom to speak our mind or practice our faith or to love whom we would love. And we thought that this was inexorable, that it was like the moral arc of the universe always bending towards justice. Until suddenly we found ourselves in a world where it was not bending towards justice. Until suddenly we saw not new democracies being born, but new autocracies. Instead of seeing our own rights here at home expand, we saw them start to contract. And we have come to learn, much to our shock and astonishment, that this thing we call democracy is fragile. And now we are on the precipice of another great threat to our democracy, and that is this effort by Donald Trump and Republicans in Texas to take people's vote away, to make the votes of those in California worth less, by taking lines in Texas that are already horribly gerrymandered to elect Republicans and making them worse. This is a president who has never viewed himself as a president of the United States of America, but only as a president of some of the states and some of the regions that voted for him. This has never been the case in America. But I will say this, you come after our votes in California, and we will fight you tooth and nail. Donald Trump, you do not poke the bear. Not while we're around. And people need to understand why he's doing this. They just passed in Congress the most reprehensible bill, their big ugly bill, that is raising health care costs for millions of people. It's going to cost millions of people their health care. As we stand here today, notices are already beginning to go out to tell people their health insurance costs are going up by 50% or 70%. People now, parents that are off buying back-to-school things for their kids, are seeing backpacks up 30% because of his stupid tariff wars, and pens and pencils costing even more. They're having to tell their kids they can't engage in certain extracurricular activities because they just don't have the money. People losing their health care, their costs are going up. This guy ran on a platform of bringing down the cost of the American people, and he's a failure. He's a failure. Costs continue to rise, but take solace in this. As you, the American people, are paying more and more for your everyday lives, Donald Trump's economy is going great. His personal economy is great. He's building a $200 million ballroom for himself. He just got his third Air Force One. He's making more money for himself and his family than he ever has in his whole life put together. He doesn't give a rat's ass about you. Not in California, not in Texas. He only cares about himself. It is his underlying corruption that is responsible for the reason why you are struggling hard to make a living. And we are going to fight back. We're going to make sure that here in California, your vote matters. If they're going to play with fire, we're going to fight fire with fire. And let me just say this to quote our wonderful governor, Donald Trump, thank you for your attention to this matter.
What we just heard from Adam Schiff is more than political theater. It's a warning about the fragility of democracy itself. Schiff paints a picture many Americans don't want to believe, that the freedoms we've grown up with, the rights we've assumed were permanent, can actually disappear. He reminds us that while we once lived in an era where walls were coming down and rights were expanding, today the reverse is happening. New autocracies are emerging, freedoms are contracting, and America is not immune. Schiff's focus here is Trump's redistricting push, which he argues is an attempt to deliberately weaken California voters by making their votes count less. Now, gerrymandering has always existed. Both parties have been guilty of it in the past, but Schiff is pointing to something even more troubling. This is about a president trying to manipulate voting power across state lines to entrench partisan dominance. It's an effort to tilt the scales of democracy, not by winning people's trust or policies, but by restructuring the playing field itself. And that, Schiff warns, is the kind of move we usually see in authoritarian states, not in the United States of America. But he doesn't stop there. Schiff links these attacks on voting power to the everyday economic struggles of ordinary families. Rising healthcare costs, tariffs that make school supplies more expensive, families unable to afford extracurricular activities for their children. These aren't abstract policy debates. They're real pressures hitting Americans right now. Schiff draws a contrast. While working families are making sacrifices, Trump is enriching himself, building lavish ballrooms, collecting planes, and padding his personal wealth. It's a picture of a leader who, Schiff argues, doesn't care about ordinary Americans, only himself. This isn't just partisan rhetoric. It gets to the core of what kind of nation we are becoming. Schiff's declaration, "You do not poke the bear," is more than a warning to Trump. It's a statement about resilience. He's telling Californians, and by extension all Americans, that democracy only survives if people are willing to fight for it. And he's challenging us to recognize that if we stay passive while voting rights are undermined, we risk losing the very foundation of representative government. And this is where we, the viewers, come in. Watching a speech like this isn't enough. Schiff is calling attention to something larger, that democracy requires active defense. It's not self-sustaining. If politicians manipulate the system unchecked, if corruption is tolerated, if people give in to frustration and apathy, then democracy will not survive. It's not inevitable that freedoms expand. They only expand when citizens demand it. So here's the question Schiff leaves us with, even if he doesn't say it outright. What are we willing to do? Will we speak out when leaders put their personal gain above the public good? Will we defend voting rights, even when they're threatened in states we don't live in? Will we stay engaged, even when it feels exhausting? The truth is, democracy's health doesn't depend only on what happens in Washington or Sacramento or Austin. It depends on ordinary people caring enough to protect it. Schiff's fiery words are a rallying cry, but the responsibility doesn't stop with him. It's on all of us. If there's one thing to take away from this moment, it's this. Democracy is fragile, but it's also resilient, if we make it so. The fight Schiff is talking about isn't just California's fight, it's America's fight. And it's a fight that will define the kind of country we leave to the next generation. So don't just watch this and move on. Engage with it, talk about it, share it, hold leaders accountable. Because as Schiff reminds us, if we don't stand up now, we may wake up one day and realize the freedoms we assumed were permanent are gone.